Joining me here on Executive Exchange on Moneyweb TV is Graham Lee, the CEO of Capitec. Graham, good to have you with us, and results out today. Perhaps we just start there from a high-level perspective. Of course, we want to go deeper into leadership, into strategy with you, but market seems to be responding relatively well to those results out today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity. We've been working very hard for a very long time on serving our clients, continuing to expand what value we can bring to them and their lives, and create growth around us, growth in our people, growth in our branches, growth in our business. But what we see as success is really growing our clients, growing their businesses, and growing South Africa around us. And I think that that's a message that resonates.
26 million clients. What are you targeting over the medium term? And those are active clients, if I might say.
We are targeting more. I think the most important thing to discuss, though, is not just how many clients we have. It is what they're doing with you. And frankly, if the total number didn't go up, but the clients who are already our clients used us more, that would actually please me much more. Particularly if you look at the fully banked clients, those are those clients who really use us to, let's call it, the maximum extent. The growth in that really does describe for us not just the value that we get from those clients, but also the value that they're getting from us. Then if you look at the app, it's really gratifying as somebody who worked in digital for a few years to see the strength in that app growth, the uptake of that. So roughly 1 in 3 adult South Africans has used our app in the last 30 days. And that's something to really think about.
That digital agenda front and center for so many CEOs in the banking environment. We'll get to that a little later in our conversation. I want to take a step back and to the point that you stepped into the hot spot, if I can call it the hot spot, or the C-suite in mid-2025, taking over from obviously long-serving CEO Gerrie Fourie. How are you feeling right now in terms of settling in, Graham? Is it fair to say you have settled in?
It's very fair to say I've settled in. I have loved every second, and I was settled in really from the first day. And that's for a couple of different reasons. I have been at Capitec quite a long time now, and worked in most parts of the business. But much more importantly than that, this is a fantastic place to work. And I've loved it because the people here truly are excellent. I mean, people at every level and part of the business, but particularly looking at the executive team. They are all brilliant at their jobs. They are people that you can trust, and that makes life really easy. And then when you have all of those people aligned to a purpose, and they work on the same set of principles, fundamentals, it makes it a very easy place to transition into CEO. And I think, by the way, that those are also the key elements of any great business. Truly excellent people, aligned to a common purpose, and making the decisions, their culture based on the same fundamental principles.
Let's get a little more granular. How would you describe Capitec's strategic decision today, and what should stakeholders understand about where the business is headed over the next few years?
Sure. So firstly, we will remain a business which is closely tied to our fundamentals, the principles upon which the business founded. We stay true to those, and they can expect that in the years ahead. And that means, before anything else, putting the client first, making sure that what we do, what we deliver, is prioritized on client value. Because we know that serving our clients well, sustainably, and in the long term, that's what creates real shareholder value, not seeking short-term profits. So I think that's the most important thing, because all of our strategy really is guided by that. And the implementation of our strategy is guided by adherence to our fundamental principles, that what we do aligns to our purpose of making a really big difference in South Africa's growth. It is aligned to it aligns how we deliver our products so that they are simple and accessible. They're affordable, and they really are personalized to our clients' needs. Now, I've answered your strategy question with a culture question. we're a culture answer, I should say. But that really is important. That's how we think about it. It is much more important to align all of the people in your organization with a common culture, because that gives you common decisions. That allows your business to scale and scale in the right way. And from that, you create good strategy.
I was chatting to the South African Reserve Bank Governor Lesetjela Kganyago just 2 weeks ago on the same platform. And we were talking about the complex financial services environment, which is just becoming more and more complicated. So perhaps the fair question here is, Graham, where you feel Capitec has a clear competitive advantage and what you are doing to fiercely protect that competitive advantage.
I think one of our competitive advantages is certainly scale. Scale creates two virtuous cycles. One is, from your scale, you can derive economies of scale. And when you share that back, when you take the benefits of those economies and you give them back to your clients, more come to you, creating more scale. And so the virtuous cycle turns. The other significant flywheel effect that's created from that scale is data. The more data you have, the better. There is an idea that data is similar to the new oil. And I reject that because, of course, oil's a commodity. All oil, roughly speaking, looks the same. And the more you have, the less valuable it is. Data is the opposite of all of those things. Quality, firstly, is incredibly important. All data points are not the same. And I would argue that financial decisions are the best data points to have. But beyond that, the more you have, the more valuable it is. Being able to see so much of the economy creates incredible value. And both of those come from that strength of scale.
We've seen so many new entrants into the financial landscape, and most notably from the international front, the likes of Revolut. Where do you see this pressure intensifying in the market today? You're going to continue to just see a swathe of new entrants coming to the fore?
We certainly believe there will be more new entrants. If you look at the competitive landscape in South Africa for banking and financial services generally, we have a very competitive landscape already. It has been for a long time. And one of the things that none of us should do is look only at the new entrants and underestimate the incredible job that most of the established players in the market are already doing, and they're getting better and better and better. So we already have very significant competition, and it's going to grow even more. This is a good thing. Whenever there's this kind of competition, it's productive for the economy and it's good for the client. And from our perspective, it means that we can never be complacent. That's excellent for us. So what do we do about that? I mean, we pay careful attention to what our competitors are doing, but that's not where our true focus is. Our focus is on our client, because we know that if we understand our client better and if we serve them better, then we will continue to grow despite the competitive pressures.
I love using these conversations to get more insight into high-stakes decision-making in the C-suite. And it's about those trade-offs. How do you go about making decisions, especially in uncertain and volatile environments like the one we're facing right now?
It does seem to me that all times are volatile and uncertain. And of course, there are some particularly big headlines at the moment with respect to the global political situation. But the truth is that there are always headwinds and there are always some tailwinds, and the future in front of us is never particularly certain. So we make sure, firstly, internally, that we build our business for resilience, and our focus, we keep focused on the things that we can manage. So in terms of understanding the volatility of the situation, we do our best to try and understand what the implications are for us. And then we focus on the implications that we can manage. That's the really important thing, focus. Secondly, really staying true to that point that I made, client first every single time. And then making sure that everybody's also aligned that what we do is for the long term. So we make decisions based on the long term, not on the short term. And so those three things, focused on what we control, always client first and valuing, prioritizing on client value, and then making decisions for the long term, keeps us aligned.
Earlier in the discussion, you referred to scale being a competitive advantage. Perhaps just unpacking that further and looking at the most important growth levers for Capitec over the next 12 to 24 months in terms of both organic and strategic growth levers.
Sure. So, the majority of our growth, maybe even all of it, is going to come from organic growth in that time frame. So personal bank remains our biggest contributor, and there's still a lot of that growth story to tell in the years ahead. On top of that, on the platform, our value-added services business and our Capitec Connect businesses really are flying at the moment, and we see that they're going to continue to do so. We're bringing more products to market in the form, for example, of bus tickets, which will launch on our app in the next couple of days. And travel value-added services are going to continue to extend from there. Capitec Connect has been growing really well, but there's a lot of upside still to come there. And this is a fantastic opportunity for us to create extra value for our clients, more value in their lives, because data is such a fundamental part of a person's needs now. And we can bring that to them with greater accessibility and more affordable pricing. And then business banking. I've left that till last in my short-term time frame, but in actual fact, it's the most important. I should have led with it, because business banking really is our biggest opportunity in the years ahead. Right now, we have quite a small market share, probably a little under 2%, and there is a big market out there to win. But beyond that, there's a big market that's underserved, a market that we don't even truly understand the potential size of yet. And I'm talking here about the emerging economy. Those businesses which either are underserved from a financial services perspective, or it's done only in the context of their personal bank. We know by understanding them as businesses, by being able to see them as the value-creating everyday earners that they are, we can design products for them to create greater access to financial services generally and funding specifically that can help those businesses grow. And when they grow, they will continue to grow Capitec because they use our services, and their future employees will use Capitec.
Graham, you touch on an area that Gerrie was very outspoken about, and that is the size of the informal market, and that we are underestimating it, as you've inferred as well. Does that mean that you're going aggressively after small, medium enterprises in informal markets, if I was to capture the strategy in just a couple of words?
At this point in time, we are aggressively trying to understand them. We're deliberately making sure that we understand the full set of needs that they have in designing products specific to them, so that we can go after that market in a big way in future years. Right now, our product set and services set is not properly complete to be able to serve that market, but it is something that we are very keen on doing, because it really speaks to our purpose of making a big difference, making a meaningful difference in South Africa's growth.
Again, you've got to balance those growth ambitions, and particularly in the informal market, which may bring a new wave of risk into the spectrum. So how do you go about balancing growth aspirations with resilience, with regulatory responsibility, and also with discipline?
Creating greater access to finance and funding particularly does require you taking on risk. That's always been true. We started out as a short-term micro-lender. And amongst the many other things that does for you, it enforces upon you discipline. It enforces upon you not just cost disciplines, but credit disciplines, the whole way through the credit life cycle. And we have learned from that. We continue to learn from that and apply those disciplines in other parts of the business. We will be no less diligent as we enter into this emerging market. But I think it's really important to understand we do recognize that we need to take on additional risk. But we manage that risk, we mitigate it, and we price for it.
Are you going to look beyond South Africa at any stage?
In the longer term, yes. You can look at our international strategy really as two distinct components. So firstly, there's Avafin, which is already part of the Capitec group, and we will continue to support Avafin's growth as Avafin the brand, doing what they're doing, but continuing to do it better with product services that are more aligned to their clients' needs and being able to directly serve their clients. So there is, I think, a really good growth story there looking ahead. In addition to to that, though. There is a distinct strategy of taking Capitec as a brand beyond South Africa's borders. On that, we really are at the beginning of the conception phase. We've taken the very first step, and that very first step is simply creating the right team to look at it, making sure that we have the funding and capacity, but it's staffed by the best people. And so we've put that team in place. They are now scanning the world to determine what the opportunities are, to look for those markets where the needs of the clients match with our strengths, so that what we're good at can make a meaningful difference in that market. So the very long answer to your question, it is quite a long way away from us actually executing on that strategy, but we are designing it now.
You've spoken a number of times about data and data being a fundamental underpin to the Capitec business. What are you doing differently when it comes to data in the financial services space?
I think we are doing what every other business strategizes to do. So I think our data strategy is unlikely to be very different from everybody else's. I think our focus on execution, on always getting the job done and getting it done at quality, and then really aligning all of our organizational decisions of funding in terms of capital, but also much more importantly, the funding in terms of your best people, putting them on those big opportunities, and that includes data, means that we execute, and we execute well. So I think it's that execution discipline more than the strategy which distinguishes us.
You spoke earlier about the importance of culture. In fact, you answered one of my strategy questions with a culture answer. Perhaps it's worth investigating what type, if you can, tell us what type of culture you're driving within the broader Capitec environment or ecosystem.
Thank you. So, our culture really is quite simple to understand, and we've made no secret of it. So the reason that we do well is we focus on getting the job done, and we get the job done by working together. We work together. We do not have silos. We don't reward people on different programs. The head of the personal bank and the head of the business bank, as an example, the head of insurance, we share the same targets. We share the same rewards. In addition to that, we are structured in our daily lives to speak to each other all the time. So we work together. That's really important. Then we focus on how we are all expected to show up. And we characterize it as the CEO. Everyone's the boss of their own job. But everybody knows those three letters: client first. You're expected to come with energy and enthusiasm and take ownership of what you do. And then we design against those principles that we talked about. We know what our clients need from us is simplicity and transparency. It is access always. It's to be affordable, and it's to provide them with excellent services, excellent client experiences that are personalized to them. That pretty much encapsulates the culture here.
Graham, you talk about everyone being their own boss. What has the CEO role taught you that you didn't know beforehand? Again, taking into account that you have a long history within the Capitec fold.
Mm-hmm. There are probably 1,000 things that I thought that I knew that I realized that I didn't coming into the job. So, earlier on I said that it's been easy and I've loved every second, and that is completely true. And that's because of the fantastic people. What I think has probably been the biggest challenge for somebody who really does love and take comfort from the detail and managing the detail is the strength that it takes to let some things go and to be able to step up and look more broadly rather than only focusing on those things which you're good at and give you comfort. It's an obvious one, and it's something that everybody will tell you, but it is harder than I expected.
Capitec is often seen as a key competitor in many of the different boardrooms when it comes to the financial services environment. Who do you see as your most formidable competitor?
We have formidable competitors absolutely everywhere. I think across all of the banks, all of them are strong and doing better. All of them have some aspects at which they really are very good at and that we admire. If you look at some of the newer banks as well, the way that they've come to market, there's a lot for us to look at and admire and learn from. If you see how the retailers serve their clients and know that not just do they intend to get into financial service in the future, but even if they're not, the way that they serve their clients, both digitally and physically, it changes expectations. So in the sense of what good service means, they're all competitors. I think everywhere you look, there really are people doing really clever things of value, and we make sure we understand what they're doing and we do whatever we can to learn from them, but never to the extent of obsessing on them, because we obsess only about one thing, which is our client.
What about Capitec today gives you the most confidence about Capitec's future?
3 things. The people we've got, they really are truly excellent. Number 2, our clients on our client base and the way they continue to vote with their feet and coming to us. And then the data that we have about this market that does really create significant opportunities.
Graham, thank you for your time. I've been chatting to Graham Lee, the CEO of Capitec, joining us here on the Executive Exchange on Moneyweb TV.